Our guest today is GiGi Diaz. Before her current role as a media personality, she opened Gigi's Academy. The studio helps kids to grow and learn through the art of dance. She also founded Seizing Happy, a life coaching organization for women. She's here today to share some insights from her experience. Thank you, GiGi, for joining us today.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. So much fun to be here with you.
So excited for you to join us on the podcast. So share a little bit about your background with us.
Okay, so I was born in Cuba. I came here when I was about 10 years old, and I've been dancing since I was 4. In Cuba, I worked in television, on children's shows, and then when I came here, I found my way into a dance competition on a show called Sábado Gigante on Univision. Mm-hmm. I won and ended up becoming part of their dance team. From there, I kept on getting training through my teenage years. And then I also did a lot of TV work, which kind of got me into journalism and broadcast on a different level, I guess I would say. Right. And then at 17, when I got out of high school, I figured all of my friends were older than me. And a lot of them were really unhappy working. I had my best friend worked at Circuit City, and she was closing a store at midnight to go to college the next day. And she was miserable. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, well, I don't want to do that. And that sounds like it sucks.
Yes.
So what I ended up doing was I had money put away from the stuff that I had done on TV. I'd done a lot of freelance work. I did a lot of print journalism. I actually worked as a columnist for a newspaper that my mom founded called En Contacto. And she hired me to do the graphic design. She's like, well, you might as well do this if you're home and you're here.
Right.
I was underpaid, Mom, but I felt like I was a millionaire.
Happens, right?
Right? I felt like I was a millionaire, but now I know I was underpaid. Anyways, I did graphic. I had money put away. So found a venue, and I feel like when you're younger, you're a lot more fearless. Found a venue, opened a dance studio, and 16 years later, it's still there. And in the meantime, as the studio grew, I was in high school, college. I got my bachelor's degree in sociology and anthropology, kept doing television as a freelance reporter, went back for my master's in global strategic communications. And then somehow life landed me in radio instead of, or in addition to television. And now I'm mainly working with iHeartRadio and launched my second business, which is the life coaching organization that you mentioned, Seizing Happy, where I now help other women that love to wear multiple hats like I do, to kind of keep their sanity and grow their businesses and grow in their personal lives in a more purposeful way by tapping into their inner happiness source and not losing their mind, switching from one thing to the other, which is really easy to do. So
I was going to say, I don't think you don't sleep at all.
I sleep 8 hours every night. Every single night.
Well,
time management is everything.
How you balance that and how you help others, balance that and find that inspiration. So tell us about the inspiration behind Seizing Happy.
So Seizing Happy is the product of me losing my mind doing everything that I was doing. And it took me many, many years to kind of figure it out, to figure out that the most important thing is your well-being. Right. And I've discovered through the years that especially us women have a tendency to even feel guilty when we put ourselves first. So we want to be moms and entrepreneurs and great wives and great girlfriends and great daughters and awesome best friends. And that's draining. And when somebody tells you, hey, just stop and take a break, you're like, no, but I have all these things to do and my business and my child and my husband. But you can't pour from an empty cup. So that discovery kind of happened. It started a little bit before this, but this was the big moment where I was getting my master's. I had 3 jobs and a little part-time gig.
Oh, wow.
Then I was getting no sleep. I was working mornings in radio, which meant I was up by 4:20 on a night when I slept in. I was working as a freelance sports reporter for harness racing. So I was even having to travel back and forth to Jersey to cover races and stuff like that. I was additionally working as a freelance reporter also in racing in a different style of horse racing. And I had my business. I had Gigi's Academy where I was doing Kingses and events, and I'm always overlooking everything that's going on. So if there's a problem with an employee or a client or the bathroom's flooded or something, it's me every time. And I literally worked myself into an urgent care. My hair was falling out and I was eating junk all the time because you're going from point A to point B to point Z throughout the day, 1,000 different things.
Not cooking.
And I worked myself sick. And one good day I kind of lost my vision. And I was like, something's really wrong with me. So I drove myself to an urgent care, which was dumb. And essentially, you know, they always ask you like, oh, so what's your schedule and what are your stressors? And I'm like, stress? Are you kidding me? I'm fine. I've got this. I do this and this and this and I've got it all under control. And I remember the doctor looking at me and saying, yeah, absolutely not. You're not okay. And what you need to do really is you're dehydrated and you need 8 hours of sleep and a good meal. And I was like, what? Dude, I have to have like lupus or something. I was so worried. I was losing half my hair. I would drive and on the back seat of my car, I would have hair, like it looked like a wig. It was horrible. So I was
like falling out or like
falling out.
Just clumps.
I'd go like this and have like a handful of hair. Not like one or two, like a handful of hair.
Yeah, like a whole clump.
Yeah, I was sure something was wrong with me. So I go into the doctor and I'm like, I lost my vision. I think I was going to faint. I've never fainted before. I'm freaking out. They tested me for everything under the sun. He's like, you're overworking yourself. You're not sleeping. You're not eating. Your body's done. Eat. I was like, it was, and it made me realize that it's so dangerous to do that to ourselves. And you cannot be well that way. You cannot be a good mom or a good employee or a good entrepreneur or a good boss or a good wife if you're running on fumes. And so from that moment, I started making choices and learning how to say no to things, learning how to stay on a path. Because I also feel like you get these opportunities, right? So there's this opportunity to do this thing and that thing and the other thing.
Say yes. You're like, yeah, I'm going to take that opportunity. And then you don't realize how it's going to fit in your time.
And you don't know how it's going to fit into your time, but not every opportunity that is a good opportunity is the right opportunity for you.
Right.
If it doesn't perfectly align with what you want, you have to say no so that you can give more time to the things that are going to get you to where you want to go faster. It took me so long to realize that. And so instead of working sideways and going on all these different paths, once you start to say no to the things that aren't in really, really good alignment with what you want, you're walking in a straighter, faster path, you know?
Right.
So in that learning process, I did a lot of inner work. I started practicing meditation to get my thoughts in order. I went to learn how to practice Reiki and work with energy. I actually have a level 2 Reiki master training, which I don't use on other people, but I do use with myself all the time. And I discovered that being an entrepreneur is such a powerful experience, but it can also be very, very lonely. So having started my first business at 18 years old, pretty much right out of high school, I realized all of my friends, I lost a lot of friendships because we didn't want to do the same things. And at that point, I was so busy with everything I was doing, so happy with everything I was doing that I didn't even realize until after the fact, when I was starting to look back and in this moment after working myself into an urgent care of like reevaluating my entire life, how lonely I was for so much of my entrepreneurial path. And another thing that I realized, which is also something that led me to Seizing Happy, is as women, we often lock ourselves into friendships because of their longevity. And that can stunt our growth. And it's important to keep your friends that you've loved for 15 years, but to have a foundation and a group of other women that their friendships are going to take you to be the woman you want to be, not the woman you've always been. So learning the balance, learning time management, learning how to surround myself with women that empower me and push me forward. Not women that when I tell them, hey, I'm going to open a second business, that tell me, oh my God, you're crazy. What do you mean? But rather women that are going to say, cool, how are you going to do that?
Right.
Can I be
Somebody
involved?
that's
How can I help?
encouraging and that's going to
Right.
help you grow along that journey as well.
Absolutely, because you'd be surprised how that response, that immediate response that you get from your BFF when you go to her and you tell her, hey, guess what? I'm thinking about opening another business. That moment, those first few words are so impactful to
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
If they're not encouraging, they could throw you into a loop of second guessing yourself, second guessing that little seed that's in your heart, and delaying you a year and a
From
half before you
getting
launch
that,
the business.
yeah, from going after it,
So
definitely.
with Seizing Happy, I was inspired by my own personal experience and all the times that I made mistakes and all the times that I spent so much money paying for things if I had known better, if
Mm,
I had a mentor or a coach that had guided me and told me, hey, there's an easier, cheaper way to do that, that would have
right.
made such a difference in my path. So all of that, all of those tools that I've acquired in my 16 plus years as an entrepreneur are the things that I now bring to Seizing Happy and to my coaching experience, both when I do one-on-one and when I do group coaching and the online courses that I offer, etc. So I went back to school another time at the University of Miami, where I got training as a life coach, and I also got a certificate in happiness studies. It's a whole curriculum created by a professor out of Harvard that was curious about what is happiness and why is there so much study into depression but not enough studying into happiness. And I
Mm,
feel like even though the two things are not the same, to be very clear, being unhappy does not mean you're depressed, and faking happiness does not mean you're okay. These are very
right.
different things. But his particular curiosity was, if we study more about happiness, we could make people stronger, we could make people better. And both things are just as important, to study
Mm,
people that are depressed and to teach people how to be happy, even though the two things are not directly connected. And for the
right.
record, and this is a disclaimer I like to always, always say, if you feel like you're depressed, or if you feel like there's anybody around you that is suffering from depression, reach out.
Mm,
Please reach out. You can reach out to me. And I will guide you to a professional, to a therapist. It is so important that if you feel like you're depressed, that you know that you're not alone. I've been there. I get it. And there is help for you. And whatever it is that your thoughts are making you depressed, whatever circumstances around you are making you feel that way, you can get out of that. So I
yeah.
always like to include that when I'm talking about the whole happiness thing, because there is a big disconnect. So after I got my certificate in happiness studies, went back for coach training, I officially launched Seizing Happy. And the concept of it is that happiness is not necessarily something that happens to people. People are like, oh, if I get this promotion, I'll be happy. If I find the
Mm.
right guy, I'll be happy. If my dog stops peeing in the house, I'll be happy. That'll make you very happy, but it's not a real happiness source. Real
Right.
happiness comes from within. And if happiness isn't something that happens to people, it's something that you have to make happen for you. So you have to be seizing happy every day. The same way that that saying says you got to seize the day, you have to be seizing happy. You have to actively be looking for the things that are going to enrich your life on the inner level. Not necessarily the car, even though a luxury car is badass. Not the
Right.
new gadgets, even though they're so much fun. I'm the techiest girl out there when it comes to, I want the new this and the new that. I want them all. But not to fulfill my happiness, because your happiness comes from within. So that's
Right.
the concept, and creating the two branches of the woman as a whole, and what your connection to yourself is, to your relationships, to your health, to your body, how you view your body, and then your connection to the woman that you are as an entrepreneur, and being able to nurture both of those things simultaneously, or better yet, giving one more time when it needs it, is
Mm.
the goal of this new business venture, Seizing Happy. And I'm so excited. Every time I sit with one of my clients, I'm delighted to see that spark, to see when that
That's
moment
so
happens and it
awesome.
clicks. You're like,
Yeah.
you got it. You're okay. Now we're going to do some awesome things together. It's so much
That's
fun.
so encouraging, and I like when you bring up the difference between the happiness. It's a choice that you're you're making choices every day to ensure that you're happy, and differentiating that from depression, and also saying that, you know, you can grow out of depression. You know, everybody kind of goes between moments or time seasons in their life where they might be depressed and they don't really know how to get out of that, and they want to get to happy, but they need that community. They know they need people to talk to and to help guide them to seizing happiness once again.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
that's so encouraging.
Thank
Uh,
you. It's fun.
So, kind of circling back to the dance studio and seizing happiness, now that you're 16 years into your entrepreneur journey, and you've seen a lot of the kids go through your program and a lot of the women, what would you say is something that you think parents could highlight or could incorporate into their parenting to help their girls become healthy women, to become happy women?
I mean, there's an endless array of things that parents can do. I can tell you from my experience working with my kids. And for the record, I'm not a mom. I'm not a mom of birth. I've had about 1,000 children or more maybe by now. But I can tell you from my training and I can tell you from my experience working with these kids that encouraging them to be their best version of themselves is
Mhm.
the most important thing. A lot of times I hear parents tell their kids like, oh, look at so and so, she's doing
Mhm.
this and that, or oh, look at
Right.
so and so, she's so successful. I've even had parents, and it makes me really happy and it makes me really proud to have a lot of the parents in my studio tell me how they tell their kids, look at Gigi, she does all these things and she's so successful and she's so happy, and all these, you know, whatever examples they use about my career. And I always try to remind them that it's important to have, I guess, leadership and people that are leaders for the kids to look up to. But when you're highlighting those people, that you also include words like, for example, look at Gigi and everything that she's doing. What would make you happy? It makes
Mhm.
her really happy to have this business that is a dance studio where you can come and learn to dance and make new friends. What would make you happy? This is what makes her happy. What do you feel would make you happy when you grow up? What do you feel you want to do professionally when you grow up? And if the kid's like, I don't know, no idea, like that's great. That's
That's
fine. So
okay.
you're always
That's their
thinking about
journey.
it.
Yeah.
Right, because you want to always instill that independence of thought and that security that they don't ever have to follow in my footsteps or in anybody else's to find their success and to find their definition of happiness and to find their own path. Because
Mhm.
for me, it's this. But for somebody, it might be something completely different. So
Right.
a mom that looks up to me and says, oh, you're a successful girl with a business and a career and whatever else they see in me, I want my daughter to be a successful girl with a business and a career. But you know what? Maybe her daughter wants something completely different. Maybe her daughter wants to be a gypsy and travel the world. And she wants to have a backpack worth of possessions and go see all of the cultures in all over the world.
Right. Every continent.
And if that's her happiness and that's what's going to make her feel accomplished and that's what's going to make her feel like she's lived her life, then may not fit at all with what your kids' desires are. As long as they're doing something that's making them better and stronger, nurture that. Doesn't matter what it is, nurture, especially nowadays that there's all this technology and you can make $1 bazillion on YouTube playing videos.
I feel like everything now is so different. Like, it's so different from when I was a teenager. We have to think about things differently. How are kids relating to each other, to their world? Like, they have so many more influences and so many more options as far as like what they can do to, you know, to earn money, to be happy, whatever it is that they're doing. So yeah, we have to help kids, I guess, plant the seed of thought for them and let them flourish in their own way, because things are so different now. You know, we have to just support them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And sometimes it takes us a minute to catch up with that technology. And as parents, sometimes you don't entirely understand what the heck is an influencer and who post this picture with a cup of whatever, you know, but it's an opportunity, and get educated and keep up with your kids and talk to them and welcome all the conversations and ask questions. The kids aren't always coming up to you with questions anymore. Ask them questions. Be curious about what they're thinking about. Connect with them in that way. And if they bring up something you have no idea what the hell it is, you know what, baby? I have no idea what you're talking about. Tell me more. And then Google it and find out everything behind their back, and then bring up the conversation again and see if you're on the same page and everything is cool in the gang, you know? But talk to your kids, ask them where they are. Don't tell them, ask them. Connect with them in that way. It's so powerful to ask your kids questions instead of just telling them stuff.
And it's such a good opportunity for parents to grow with their kids. I think a lot of times parents think, okay, I'm the parent and I know what I'm doing. And then even though they might admit later, like, yeah, I was kind of didn't know what I was doing, just going along with it. It's an opportunity to grow with your kids and learn from them, because there's so much opportunity for that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. So Gigi, let's be a little vulnerable here and think back to our youth. What were some of the things that you were concerned about as a teenager coming up?
Girl, I was concerned about everything. I was concerned about so many things. I had a lot of pressure to get into school. My parents had no money. And I had a lot of pressure to get into college, and I suck at math. And
me too.
Girl, listen, if it doesn't have dollar signs, I don't know what I'm doing. So, you know, it was very stressful for me because I had to earn a scholarship to go to school, and I ended up earning it, but that was a lot. Body image was a big issue for me. And I find that important to communicate to my kids, because a lot of people think that body image is a lot of people think that having a problem with body image only comes if you look a certain way. Like if you're overweight or if you're this or if you're that. Listen, not feeling comfortable in your own skin can happen to anybody at any age, looking any way. Because it's you looking inward and just choosing to find flaws in yourself by comparing yourself to other girls, to other people out there. It doesn't matter if you're heavy or skinny. It doesn't matter if you're white or black. It doesn't matter if you've got wrinkles or not. If you're finding the flaws, you can have a body image problem.
Yeah.
And I think about it now and I look back and I'm like, wow, I mean, I shouldn't have had any body image issues, but I remember I'd constantly think like, oh, you know, she has bigger boobs than me, or, oh, her hair is longer than mine, or, oh, like she does her makeup better than I do. I still suck at doing my makeup. You know, all these things that I would just look and constantly look outward and compare who's taller, who's shorter, who's this, who's that. And like, if the boys were looking at this specific girl, I would compare to see like how I looked like in comparison. It was a nightmare being in my mind.
Yeah.
It was a nightmare. I'll tell you right now. And I'm not ashamed of it because it taught me to love myself. When I realized like, why the hell, I don't care I'm done. You know, like, it was too tiresome. And then I would see all these little girls walk into my dance studio and worry about being in tights. And I'm talking about 9-year-olds, you know, and I remember thinking to myself, you're 9. why do you even see your body that way at
Right.
9 or 8? I didn't see my body that way at 9. I'm talking teenager. I was worried
Yeah, I
about
remember
my
like
base
as
of
a
my
teenager,
butt.
that's when you really start to notice. But I think nowadays a lot of kids are they're starting to focus on that a lot earlier,
So much
right?
earlier. And
Yeah.
it snapped. And I was like, you know what? These little girls are looking at their bodies all wrong. It's
Hmm.
not about your body being sexy. It's about your body is the one and only thing that you're going to live in for
Hmm.
the rest of your life. It's not your
Yeah, so
home, it's
true.
not your car, it's not it's this thing right here. This is all you got.
Yep.
And if you don't love it exactly the way it is, you're screwed.
Yeah, and treat it well too.
Yeah. So once you learn to love your body with all of its little flaws or all of its big flaws, you approach it differently.
Right.
It means you eat differently. It means you exercise differently. And I'm not talking about going on a diet or being vegan or vegetarian or waking up at 5 a.m. to run. Even the small changes that begin to happen, those make a huge difference because
Yeah.
just showing yourself love. And if you end up becoming somebody that wants to be up in the morning at 5 to run and going vegetarian or vegan or whatever you decide is your lifestyle, as long as you are making those decisions from love, because
Right.
you feel like it's going to make your body healthier and stronger, not because it's going to make you skinnier or sexier, then you're on the right path. And
Yeah.
those little things, seeing my 9-year-olds worried about how their butts looked in tights at a ballet class, surrounded by other little girls, I was like, we have to fix this. You know, we have to teach them that it's about who you are. And it's more important that you're honest, that you're loyal, that you're good, that you're fun, that you're kind, than that your waist looks like this or your butt looks like that. Because ultimately it's all going to sag in the end, so it doesn't really matter. So self-love, it took me a long time to learn it for myself. But once I had to teach other people, other little kids, all my little monsters, I call them my little monsters. Once I had to teach them that, it became so much easier to love me too. Because once you tell them, like, I remember, I don't teach as much anymore, but I remember I would always, during my dance classes, we would stretch in the beginning and stretch in the end. And at the end of the class, I would always have them do like butterflies and put their nose to their toes just so they could relax there for a minute. And I would always tell them, find a body part that you want to thank today. Find a body part that you're grateful for today. And it could be anything. And I remember when, like, sometimes I could tell they weren't feeling it. And I would always say something silly. Like, I'd be like, oh, I'm really, really thankful for my very stinky feet right now. Because without my feet, I wouldn't have been able to teach you guys this class and dance with you. And they would crack up. And then they would jump in and they were like, oh, I'm thankful for my hands and I'm thankful for my hair and I'm thankful for all these random things. And you'd be surprised how powerful that is, how it instantly changes their mood when they're looking at their body and like, oh, I'm really grateful I have elbows. Listen, your elbows are important.
Yeah.
They're a big deal. Just think about it, really. All the things that your fingers allow you to do, all the things that your ears allow you to do, that your knees allow you to do, and bringing love to tiny little parts of your body like that and saying, I'm grateful I have you just the way that you are, because look at everything you allow me to live and experience. It's a powerful thing. And teaching my kids that, I learned to do it a lot for myself as well. And it was empowering and it was really gratifying to see them apply that all the time. And if I would ever forget to do the whole like body part thankful thing, because I had to wrap up class or whatever, they'd call me out on it once in a while. One of them would come up to me and be like, you didn't thank anything in your body today, Miss G. Like, get out of here. But it sticks to them. And teaching those things when they're young is really powerful. It's easier to get those things in there when they're little.
Right, it's easier to get those habits when they're younger than when they're older. I love your perspective on this. I love the perspective of gratitude, helping them learn that from such a young age, Gigi. It's been great speaking with you today. Thank you so much for spending time.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Awesome. And we're going to include a link so that people can find you as well.
Absolutely. Yes, please. You can log on to seizinghappy.com or gigidiaz.com and we can connect on there. And I look forward to the comments and any questions. I'm always accessible anywhere to answer any. I love talking, obviously, to everybody. So
awesome. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
If there are any topics you would like more information about, please leave us a comment below. And of course, hit the subscribe button and click the bell to be notified of new episodes.